Lions are 2-3. And yesterday we had an extraordinary occurrence in Metro Detroit. We took 4 hours of phone calls, and there were a lot of people that liked the win. We took 4 hours of ticket texts and tweets. And I checked with Kang about three-quarters of the way through the show. Kang, our producer, who sees all the ticket texts that come in. We didn't get any bold proclamations about what this win means. Not one. We didn't get anybody calling saying, playoffs, guys. Anybody calling saying they're going to win the division now. Anybody, as we jokingly put it, here we come. We got none of that. We got no texts. It was a responsible, reasonable, football-savvy kind of response. I'm good with the win. Totally good with it. Thought they did what they needed to do. But Detroit, I thought, handled it like a veteran football audience. And I'm kind of proud of us, collectively as a community. As a community, we did good work there.
Nice.
But here's the question. What is the... Wait a sec. We got something here. Like, what would make you say that? At what point would you say... Because you have a 5-11 expectation. I have a 7-9 expectation. Could they do anything where you would come off that and say...
This is a playoff team?
This might be a playoff team. This might be a team that far exceeds my expectation.
They could, but I don't think it's probable or even plausible. But let's say that they heal up, and for the Miami game and for the Miami game over the next three or four games, that they're able to run the ball for well over 100 yards a game, like 130 yards a game. Kerryon Johnson in those games has a couple of 100-yard games, proves that he's healthy. TJ Lang is able to stay on the field and stay healthy. Ziggy Ansah plays all of those games and steadily improves as he gets more playing time and gets more accustomed to being on the field. And same thing with Jared Davis. Jared Davis, all of a sudden, we see a major improvement from Jared Davis at middle linebacker. That the defense gets it. The defensive front seven gets it. And they're no longer giving up all those rushing yards per game.
5.7 yards per carry or whatever it is.
Well, 146 yards a game is what they're giving up. That, during a stretch there, they're giving up like 100 yards a game. That they've made dramatic improvement in the run stoppage, and they've made dramatic improvement in the running game. Right now, the Lions offense is like 17th in the league. It's nothing special. Mm-hmm. And it kind of should be, shouldn't it? You've got a good quarterback. You've got great receivers as a group. I think that group is great. I think it's one of the top 5 groups in all of the NFL in terms of your receivers. And you've got a pretty good quarterback can get them the ball. It should be a better offense than what we're seeing. So, I mean, they can improve that. Absolutely. Those things could improve. And I could say if they win those games, it's going to have to take a few game stretch to do it, where I'd be like, you know what? Like, if they show up and beat one of Minnesota and the Rams, if they beat one of those teams while also taking care of the Miami game, which you should, and then they've got a Bears game coming up too. If they beat Miami, the Bears, and take one of two against Minnesota and the Rams.
Well, they have Seattle.
Beat Seattle too, okay? Because Seattle's that's a winnable game. But those are, and when I say it's a winnable game, that's a game that teams that are going to be in the playoffs, they have to win.
Yeah.
So like this game a week from Sunday when they play the Dolphins, I look at that as must win already. It's must win. If you want to make the playoffs, you want to make some sort of run, you must win that game.
What's interesting about that is the Dolphins, I think, have the best record of any team Detroit will play in their next 5 games. No, in their next 4 games. No, never mind. Forget it.
You have the Rams in it, don't you?
I'm just completely wrong. No, the Bears are 3-1. I changed my mind on this. I went back and forth of what would they need to do where I'd say, you know what? They are going to compete. They've got back-to-back games coming up in the beginning of November where they play at Minnesota and at Chicago in back-to-back games. If they win both of those, I will be impressed. And I will think they have a shot at the division. And I realize that they can completely blow it the next 2 weeks. But to win, to have then won your first 3 division games, including 2 on the road, will tell me 2 things. It'll tell me not only that the Lions can compete within the division, obviously, but maybe those teams aren't all we thought they were. You know, a month ago, people thought the Bears would finish 4th. They trade for Khalil Mack. Expectations go up. Oh, they'll probably finish 3rd. They're currently in 1st place. There is a Trubisky love where I'm going to have to go back and check this, but isn't it true that Trubisky's really only played 1 good game? And the 1 good game he had was fantastic.
It was a phenomenal game that they played when they beat up on Tampa Bay. Yeah, but that's also like his last game that he played, so it leaves an impression. And they do have a solid running game, and they've got a good defense. I guess maybe we should look at it this way, Doug. Given that the Lions have beaten Green Bay and beaten New England, regardless of where they were before the season begins, you see those games on the schedule like those are losses, automatic losses,
and it has done nothing. Right. It's done nothing for the fan base.
Instead of looking at the games and saying, well, they got to beat Miami, they got to beat Seattle, and then win 1 of 2 against Minnesota and Chicago. Instead of saying that over the next 4 games, just be 3-1 over the 4. I don't care who the wins come against, right? Because we've seen like the improbable win over a New England team or a Green Bay team when actually kind of winnable. So if I'm looking at the next 4 games, and you want to throw Carolina in there, make it the next 5, and then the Bears on Thanksgiving. Let's go 6. Okay, well, because
we're talking our way through
it. Okay, we're talking our way through it because that's a big 6-game stretch before they get a little bit of a break after Thanksgiving. 6 games there, and you've got 4 really tough games in a row with Minnesota, Chicago, Carolina, and Chicago. What's realistic to go through that stretch and feel like you've got a shot? Because if they're 4-2, then that means you're 6-5. You're better than 500. You've got wins. You'll have wins over some division opponents there. Mm-hmm. You might be in decent shape. Is it 4-2 over that stretch to give you hope to think? Unfortunately, the game after that is the Rams, but then you've got Arizona, Buffalo.
I mean, that would probably do it. For me, it's just sweep the 2 road games against the division rivals.
At Minnesota, at Chicago.
At Minnesota, at Chicago. Aren't those the first 2 games in November?
Yes. So November 12th, Monday, November 12th, we come in, and if they've won those 2 games.
I will think that this team can exceed my expectations.
I'm just gonna limit it to 4 games, and I'll go 3-1 in those 4 games, ending with that game against Chicago. So November 12th, if the Lions win 3 of their next 4 games. So
you're kind of thinking beat Miami, beat Seattle, and split with Minnesota and Chicago.
That's what I'm thinking.
And I'm thinking sweep Minnesota, Chicago, and I'm buying in. Kang, you got one to make you have faith?
Well, that's when I said they have a chance.
Right. No, I get it.
If they were to sweep them, if they go 4-0 and with wins at Minnesota, at Chicago in back-to-back weeks, I'm expecting playoffs.
Yeah, it's.
If you want to take it that step further.
If we're really talking about changing your philosophy, and because this win didn't change the faith in Detroit based upon the 4 hours of data that we took in yesterday.
Yeah, that said, I don't think any of that's going to happen.
No, I mean, I don't think they're going to sweep those games. But 248-539-9797. Kang, we'll get your 2 cents. And we want to know from the people what would make you change. Plus, I mean, look, opinions change, attitudes change. Has yours changed about these guys in Detroit that are incredibly well respected? We'll get to that at 10:50. Open line calls, ticket text, 97.1 The